So today we will be bringing you a special show. Special in that we will be bringing you excerpts of a panel discussion that took place at the Department of Education's headquarters in Lower Manhattan in early February. Now, this panel discussion revolved around the local community school boards in New York City, also known as community education councils. These are advisory boards on education policy, and they have legislative authority over zoning for New York City district public schools. So rather than going into all of the technicalities and mechanics of the councils, which can be found online on the Department of Education's website, we thought we would bring you excerpts from the discussion, the real life conversations of how people actually manage their lives and serving on these boards as volunteers. So the panel was made up of members that are currently on these councils and members that were on in the recent past. We enter into the discussion after a question has been raised as to how much time it takes for a person realistically to serve on one of these boards.
I'll answer that question. I'm sorry, and that's a great question to ask. Being on the CEC is it's a time-consuming role, and good evening, fellow parents. The time commitment to be at meetings, to interact with your school leadership teams, with your principals, with your school community, to be stay abreast of the issues and the ongoing items on the agenda and so on forth for the entire school year, it requires a commitment. I hope it's not you that works 60 hours a week, but that's the reality. It does require a lot of time and commitment.
I have parents, because I've built relationships over the years, who contact me all hours of the day and night. So even though I'm getting emails, I'm getting text messages, I get phone calls. So I've found, and it's up to you to establish those boundaries, what works for you. But I found that, I can be doing something like a school event during the day, meetings in the afternoon, and meetings and events in the evening. So it's really up to you, because there are members who are on my CEC, their schedule looks nothing like mine. It's up to you how dedicated you are, how involved you choose to be. I spend a lot of time with my elected officials, because if any of you are very serious about this, if you don't have a little bit of a politician in you, you will have a hard time with this. This is very political. You will interact with your elected officials. If you are shy and do not like being in front of an audience and don't want to talk to people, you will have a difficult time serving your community. And the more needy of the community, the more you must advocate on their behalf.
It's not just the PTA writ large, but the regulation and the state law that you're running for a public office.
And I would also like to say, as you're looking up here, you see this wonderful DOE logo, the NYC. You will not find it on anything that CEC 14 does, because as a board, we decided we are a state entity. Everything that we have happens to have the state seal. And once we made it, we came to that understanding that we exist because of state law. That's when it made it very clear to us that we were elected officials.
So I apologize if you've answered this already, because I came in a little bit late. I wanted to ask about the election process. How many seats are available? How many people are on the CEC? And I know this is the first time you've done a selection, like outreach like this, but how many people run?
There are a total of, 325 seats up for election. All the seats are up for election. And that's 9 for each district council and 9 for each citywide council except for CCHS, which is 10. So basically, all the seats are up for election. How many people run? Well, we would like to have as many people as possible run, because as you know, the notion of a competitive election, if the more candidates you have, the more likely it is that the person who eventually gets elected actually is committed, knowledgeable, and and actually represents. Again, this is as public officials, you represent the population. So, if you get in with one vote, that's not necessarily represent.
I'm new to this, so pardon my ignorance here. But I saw that the CEC functions in chiefly an advisory capacity, yes? Okay. Is there anything that a CEC could mandate that schools in that district have to follow? Nothing. Okay, so okay. Okay, and the other part of that is, what do you do if the school doesn't follow that mandate?
Okay, so speaking to your first question, mandating is not something CECs do with one exception, and that is zoning. So the policy is, per state law, that the chancellor of the school district, which in this case is the New York City, all of New York City is one school district, as per state law, presents zoning lines for your council to vote on. But it's not as simple as that. And what I have found with CEC 30, which is Western Queens, we have a lot of build out and build up of high rises and new residential construction, so zoning became a real issue. And to be effective, having a positive attitude and working with the Department of Education and working early enough to carve out zone lines so that you could communicate with the community, with Department of Education, and with other stakeholders will allow you to have conversations that can effect positive adjustments. So in other words, the first iteration of a zoning plan for a school is not necessarily what's voted on. It might be 6 or 7 iterations later after you've worked on it. Now, as far as schools not following what you mandate, again, you really can't mandate things. In terms of zoning, they're going to follow. Once zoning is set in place, they all follow that. Everything else, I think your effectiveness comes from your ability to be a positive person who looks to inform yourself on the issues at hand and everything related, and then engaging with people much as you might professionally as you're effective. I'm sure it will carry over, and you're bringing the voice of your community and saying, here's what they would like to see. And there's a lot of power to that if you're speaking for a community, and the Department of Education does engage with you, and they do work with you. That's the reality.
I also want to add that for folks who don't know, we just recently announced a restructuring, and part of that restructuring gives and is re-empowering superintendents to really answer to school-based issues. So as CEC members and CECs, and this will be new because it'll be a brand new cycle, you guys will be working sort of shoulder to shoulder with the superintendent on school-based levels who do have the authority to talk directly with principals, to support teachers, support parents, etc. And then additionally, of course, on the policy front, right, come back to Central, to Jesse's shop, to any one of us, and we'd like to think that we're very responsive. We've got 2 in the front.
Hi, my name is Rosemary Golston, and I just would like to know, for the days that you schedule meetings, is it a set date or does it fluctuate?
It's set, but it can be flexible.
So each council can decide how they set their meetings.
And there's a business meeting every month, and there's a calendar meeting every month. So you, in essence, have a commitment of 2 meetings each month for the entire school year. So if you're working with Head Start councils and other community boards, this is an even greater time commitment. And not to discourage anyone, but it's something where you'll know the meeting times ahead of time, but the most important thing is your presence at these meetings. And actually, I just wanted to add, by a show of hands, because you all are all parents here. Everyone in the room, I think, who's interested in this is a parent, or as a borough president appointee. But by a show of hands, how many parents here have actually attended their district CEC meetings? So that looks to be about maybe a quarter. And to the gentleman that just asked the question about the mandates and so on and so on, to answer those questions and to really observe what's going on, and encourage you, there's 6 more months of CEC meetings in your district. Get out to your district and attend the meetings and learn what the whole process is about, and interact with your elected official CEC council members, because they are a tremendous resource as well for you getting information. Thank
That's
you.
a really, really great suggestion.
Good evening. I am a co-president in District 5. I'm curious about what advice and what strategies can you provide to myself as a parent and also co-peer president on strategies on how do we re-engage parents into this process, because the district that I'm in at our CEC meetings, maybe 5 of us that show up, and I'm part of the President's Council, and the PA presidents share the same thing. They can't get people to come out to their meetings. My daughter's school is very different. I think we're unique because we're brand new school. So what advice could you offer?
So this, I think each of you guys were nodding your head, so why don't we do like a 30-second, each one of you guys respond to that. Isaac?
First thing that comes to my mind, we did take CEC 30 from no attendees to a pretty good size attendance. And the philosophy was offer something. And sometimes that's a meal, but oftentimes it has to be something that's relevant for the people that are coming. One thing that we did was all of our appointments of principals, APs, and so forth now went through the CEC, and so the superintendent did that. That brought a lot of people and families and so forth, a lot of joy. We had performances of the kids in the school that we were in for that particular month. And then some kind of presentation, whether it's coming from a CBO or Department of Ed or one of us doing it, that gives them something that they can take home and use that will bring people out.
One of the things that we did on the Citywide Council on Special Education was we asked the parents in the school what they wanted from us. And we gave them a survey, and they filled out the survey. And we based our meetings on the input we got from the parents. And we did that in all 5 boroughs.
And once you identify within your school or within your district those concerned parents, it then becomes about making those concerned parents ambassadors for the personal touch that Teresa is referring to engage other parents and bring them in.
Hi, my name is Marcia Aronovitz. I have a question about when you say issues and needs of the community. Obviously, they've probably been, each district has defined them, but the needs are very broad. Say our PTA deals with very different things than our SLT deals with. And I imagine this is sort of on a different level than that. So what types of needs can be dealt with on this advisory level? Are we talking Common Core? Are you talking bathrooms? Are you talking capital improvements? Are you talking curriculum? I mean, sort of, is it everything?
Every single item that you just said, every single one, whether it's the curriculum, the raising the standards, the school capital plans, clocks in the building, everything are issues that we address on the CEC.
You have a very important role as a CEC member to hold a meeting, right? And to then discuss the issues. So we found it very effective in our district. We have town halls. We had issues with safety. So instead of having, we had a couple of buildings that had that issue, we brought those communities together along with the precinct commander, along with school safety, with all the people who would have then been responsible. I'm using this as a specific example, so that the issue of safety was then addressed, so that the people, the community had an opportunity to speak to the people who were responsible and to bring about change. So that's like one thing. We also had, and this is something we did very recently, we have a school that has a very high population of kids who are in homeless shelters. So we were able to do an event where we brought together a CBO that helped get clothing and did a clothes drive for that school. So you can do things like that. That a PTA necessarily wouldn't be able to do, because you're focusing in on one individual, you know, you become very parochial in your view. And one of the things that it did for me when I became a member of the CEC, it took me out of thinking about just my school. And I started thinking about my community, because yours is a community education, right?
We got the law changed in Albany. We got, I mean, that took up years to get the law changed to allow parents of former L's, at least for the past 2 years, to be able to participate, and we were able to get more people that way, but it's still not enough, so we've been busy doing that.
So as all of my fellow panelists said, which is all correct, we experienced this in District 30, you may be advisory, but the scope of your advice is very broad. And what you can do is provide a safe environment for schools to bring their issues. One of our schools had an issue with homework. Some parents were saying there's too much over breaks and it's interfering with vacations, holidays, even religious observances. Others are saying it's not enough. To have that conversation in the school sometimes is a little challenging, but to have it in our forum, it's a safe environment, we're providing that container. Now the principal, the superintendent, everybody can hear, and then they can go back. We dealt with gifted and talented programs in District 30. We dealt with the homework issue. We dealt with so many issues, I forget the issues we dealt with, because you're providing that place for everybody to come and speak. And you can invite whoever you wish, DOE, legislators, and so forth, and they can all come safely, and you moderate that conversation. And if you do that well, then good things can happen.
Pablo, you want to walk us through sort of timeline and what to expect?
Yeah, so the candidate forums are really the candidates' opportunities to address the people who are going to be voting for them and for those people to see the candidates. Because under Chancellor's regulations, there's no campaigning by candidates in schools. So you can't go to a PTA meeting and address the PTA. You can't, it's very limited. You can't send your flyers to a school. The only campaign allowed is when you fill out the application, you'll see there's a background, candidate background section where you list your experience, what you want people to know. And then there's a candidate statement, which is why you want this position, what you think you can do with it, what are your goals, etc. Those two statements are going to be part of your public profile. That's going to be published. It's on the website. Just kidding it out. It's on the website. It will be on the candidate brochures because people need to know who wants to represent them, right? So those statements will appear as it is on the website and the brochures.
I'll make a statement about the candidate forum. Just to share, this is my second year on CC3. And the candidate forum is an opportunity, like was just said, for the president of all the PTA presidents and the vice president come to question you, to find out what your interests are, what your agenda, just your whole feeling. But I would say this, having gone through the process just two years ago, whatever is motivating you when you come to this forum, whatever is on your mind, whatever you feel passionate about, whatever is driving you to be part of this community education council, that's what you say at that forum. Because there's no campaigning, you can't really politic yourself place, but you have to have a place and a reason why you're there. What is troubling you? At the end of the day, we're all parents and we all want our children to do well. And that's why you're there. And if you come there with that passion, with that focus about what your child needs and what, like Tessa has said about addressing the needs of your school community, things are going to go well for you. The fact that you don't know how many candidates are going to show up at the forum, and it could be 12 of you, it could be 15 of you, but it's really about getting across, why you're there. I'll say lastly, without over talking, is that I attended a CEC meeting a couple of years ago in my district, and noticed that I come from a very dynamic and diverse district, but the people on the council didn't necessarily represent my voice. Or it wasn't as diverse as to hear what the voices of the families in my community, and that's what got me involved. So whatever's driving you, that's what matters. And enjoy the candidate forum. It's nothing to be nervous about. It's all about your willingness to serve.
Quickly, independent of the questions that have come up, which have all been really good, my experience getting to the council was different. I went to a debate about charter schools, and a longtime advocate in the special education world was there asking if I wanted a drink. I said, sure. And that's how I got involved. And, you know, I really liked what you said about being forthcoming and about what you're passionate, because everybody brings different things to the table. And 2 points that I think are worth talking about for a couple of minutes are, for me, one of the great benefits of being involved on a citywide council is that it is a community. And as a parent of a kid with very involved needs, he's 12, he's nonverbal, he has cerebral palsy, I took great comfort in being with people all the time who I can identify with and also who I can learn from. Learning has been the greatest gift of being involved in the council because it's such a vast world and there's so much going on, and we have policies at the city level, at the state level. A lot of education policies is dictated by the federal government, by funding. There's all different parts of policy. And, you know, I have had the wonderful experience of learning from people who have come before me, and that has been probably the biggest blessing. The other thing that I think is really worth talking about for a minute or two is the politics. And for me, I get very uncomfortable when people are involved for their own political agenda, you know, meaning that they have aspirations, and it's not about the kids first. Now, there's no right or no wrong. I'm just talking from my own experience that I tend to, maybe it's fear or get scared, but I get turned off from people who are about themselves and not about the kids. And this is something that you have to navigate on a daily basis when you're working within a group. And so if you think you may not have the skin to do that, you should still do it and talk with other people about it, because I think that goes a long way. But that it does exist, just like it exists everywhere.
I want to do what we call a lightning round in forums, so that each of you can get a quick, just a little something and share a little something. So each of you said that this was a huge time commitment, that if you're working full-time, you don't know how you do it, that you have morning meetings, sometimes school visits, sometimes you meet with parents. You got me and Jesse and Paula calling you guys regularly, I know that. So why and how and what should these parents do? Why would they want to run? Why should they run? Hit it.
Quoting something from the scriptures, there's a lot of happiness in giving, and you're giving of yourself, and that brings happiness to you. Definitely for me, experience.
Mine would be, you know, very simple. You can make a difference, and I can tell you all the different things that I witnessed when I first walked in the doors at a school in 2005, when a regular general ed principal told me that those kids on the 5th floor were in Huz. And 2 years later, there was councils in the school, and yes, the windows on the 5th floor were getting replaced with a capital plan because they were narrow kids, and the bathrooms the kids could get into. So, and the trailers were put away. So, and the therapy rooms got bigger. So yeah, you can make a difference.
Such a hard question. I think two things. One is there's power in numbers, and especially in the world of special education, we are a minority group, and to be visible, seen, and heard as opposed to being in segregated settings and not included. And for me, this is a little cynical, but it's honest. If I can do my civic duty to help move the needle culturally so people like my son will be valued more, it's worth that alone. And I think everybody can relate to that in their own way, in their own families.
It's amazing how much of an education you get from being involved. You know, you don't need a college education. Just be a parent.
PTA president or a school board member or a CEC member, it's an education. You learn so much. I remember I went to a forum and I asked a question about bilingual education, and they never answered it. So I went up to the moderator and I said, excuse me, you didn't reply to my question about bilingual education. He said, oh, nobody's interested in that. Well, he doesn't know when he started because, because that got me so angry. Because my two children are bilingual, they go to bilingual programs even though they're English dominant, and I was an L way before it was called an L. And even though I was born and raised here, so that's my passion. So it's you learn about everything.
Well, the first thing is you care. You wouldn't be here if you didn't. So that's the first thing, you care. I started as a learning leader, and when I walked into the building that I was volunteering at, and I saw that this building did not have a library. And I later got to see the disparities of the more needier schools